Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's Small Business Breakthroughs from the Ohio Small Business Development Center at Columbus State Community College. My name is Mike Bowers. I am the director of the SBDC here in Central Ohio, and we are excited to bring you another episode of this particular session. And as always, I want to thank the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center, who is a partner in this particular program. We have been working with them through all of the episodes, and we're really happy for their partnership. And obviously, we've been partners with them for years and years and years. So with that, I want to introduce Chaz Frutel, who is the manager of the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center, and let him say a few words about the deck.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. It's always a pleasure to be with you, whether it's a live on-site event or a virtual one like this. It's great to see that many events are starting to become more on-site, and but I think forever we've established a presence to where we'll continue with the virtual events as well. Just sometimes much easier for folks and that type of thing. But the deck's been in existence since 2009, and we serve a large part of the Central Ohio community. We average tenants of about 150 businesses at any given time. Believe we're one of, if not the largest entrepreneur center in the United States, and just appreciate the opportunity to work with organizations like SBDC and Rev1 and SCORE and so many others that provide great services on site at the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center. So if there's anybody out there that is looking for a place to call home for their businesses, we have hotspots and as low as $90 a month that give you 24/365 access and all the amenities, including conference rooms and Wi-Fi and everything, clear up to fully furnished offices. So if anybody's interested in any of those types of services or needs, we'd be happy to help. And as always, just love the opportunity to co-host events with SBDC. So thank you so much to Mike and to Bruce for bringing this event to us, and look forward to hearing what Kevin has to share today.
Great. Well, again, thank you guys for your partnership in this particular program. And for those of you that are interested, go to DEC, that's DEC, decindublin.com. You can find the website, and you can find out a lot of information about the deck, about the various programs and trainings that's involved here, and things that you can do. And like I say every month, I mean, you may not be necessarily looking for space, but it's a great place to kind of connect in with Chaz, find out a little bit more about what's going on here, and you know, a lot of support for entrepreneurs, a lot of support for small business owners, in addition to space. And as Chaz said, you know, there's hotspot spaces that if you just want to kind of come in and check it out and, you know, use it, you know, periodically and, you know, get the 365 access, it is definitely a great location. So I'd encourage you to check that out. And we're going to go ahead and get rolling with today's session. As you probably are aware, the Small Business Breakthrough session is designed to bring, you know, expertise from individuals that either are growing entrepreneurial small business ventures, work with individuals that are growing entrepreneurial ventures, or you know, like we have today with Kevin Lloyd, who's doing it all. So we're excited to have Kevin on board.
I thought today. It might be your lunch. Are you on lunch yet?
And
it's like the mute button is needed. Yeah.
So anyway, we're excited to have Kevin on board today. I met Kevin a couple of years ago, and what I thought was interesting, and one of the things that I kind of want to delve into a little bit as we move through the program today, is this kind of business development thing. So Kevin and I were on a committee together through the city of Columbus, working with entrepreneurial support organizations. And, you know, we kind of knew each other from passing and probably, you know, shaking hands and, you know, how you doing type of thing. But I mentioned in one of the sessions that I think I might have been virtual and Kevin might have been there. I mentioned that we were receiving some funding, you know, at the very early stages of the pandemic to, you know, support entrepreneurs who are being impacted by COVID-19 and some of the shutdowns, et cetera. And I think as soon as the session was over, Kevin was on the phone and saying, "Hey, I want to talk to you. I've got some opportunities for you." So, you know, I thought that was great, and it turned out to be a great partnership. So we were excited to be able to work with Kevin for a couple of years on that, and we're always looking for opportunities to work with Kevin going forward. So for those of you that are in the live audience today, I'd encourage you to put any questions into the chat. We'll monitor the chat and bring those questions out. And if you want to put your contact information in there, maybe there's folks here that you can network with and things of that nature, I'd encourage you to go ahead and do that. So with that, I want to, again, I've already introduced Kevin, but I want Kevin to kind of introduce himself, talk a little bit about some of the things that he's got going. Like I said, he's when they talk about serial entrepreneurs, I think I generally think of people like Kevin who are, you know, constantly looking for new opportunities and ways to make a difference. So, Kevin, you want to give us a little bit of background about what you got going on?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I appreciate the opportunity, first of all. So kudos to you on Ohio SBDC at Columbus Community State College and Columbus State Community College. And then Chad, so what you're doing in Dublin, I've heard great things. I need to make my way over there and spend some time at the deck as well. So I appreciate it. So a little bit of background. So, you know, Mike kind of, you know, gave a softball on this one in regards to serial entrepreneurship. And I started with ColumbusBlack.com 17 years ago under the Lloyds of Columbus umbrella. And basically, the Lloyds of Columbus is a lifestyle enhancement marketing company. ColumbusBlack.com is the primary online resource connecting the Black community and others, obviously, who want to connect with our community in regards to commerce and culture. The commerce side is really in regards to business. So any businesses, organizations that want to connect with the Black community, we have a omni-channel platform to do that. What does that mean, omni-channel? You can literally engage through our website, ColumbusBlack.com, which I'll invite each of you to go and check out today. Also through our email blast. So we've been able to build an email distribution list over the last 17 years, and as well as social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and then obviously text messages, live events, and virtual events. So all of those channels are the ways that we have the ability to engage the Black community here in Central Ohio. And that has really evolved over time. We weren't always an omni-channel platform, but this is a great way to advertise, to market, to find out what's going on, and to engage the community as well. And that's part of what we were able to do not too long ago with Ohio SBDC in regards to really getting the information out to local businesses who really needed to support the guidance and the fact that this was free services, right? Like there's not too many things that you can find for free, but those free services that are available for our community. So we were able to get that information out. So that's really cool. But then, you know, the next piece of that is we evolved over time. And then my wife and I co-founded MYLE, which stands for Make Your Life Entertaining. So it's MYLE. It's pronounced just like when you drive a mile, but it's spelled with a Y instead of an I because it's really all about you. And MYLE is a social activity and entertainment marketplace. So what we did was take all of the experiences from relocating 10 times through different businesses to relocate. I relocated 10 times as an executive in retail. Sherry was with me on 5 of those relocations. And in every city that we were in, basically people were always asking, you know, what should we do when we come to visit, or what should we do after we left? Where should we go? So we said, let's leverage technology and create this digital platform. So now what you have is actually a digital concierge, some call it, is a marketplace. It's great for people who are looking for things to do, places to go and food to eat. But then on the other side, it's great for people who are promoters, event planners, event hosts that are trying to get their information out there to the community. and they struggle with that, right? So now you have this marketplace where you can literally send a push notification to anyone within seconds that is on the platform and inform them of your event or your activity. So literally changing the landscape in regards to how we can find out about entertainment. And obviously we want to leverage technology such as artificial intelligence to provide you with recommendations and make your life that much easier and entertaining at the same time. So those are the two businesses that I founded or co-founded leading into the pandemic. I didn't realize that I'd come out of the pandemic with two more businesses, which are really exciting. One of those is Venture Suite. So Venture Suite basically is a suite of ventures. It's a co-working space and event space that is at the Huntington Empowerment Center, right in the King Lincoln Bronzeville area, across the street from the Columbus Urban League. So my partners, Brandon Jones and Bruce Jones from Black Hack, we came together and said, hey, we really need a home for startups. Why? Because a lot of startup entrepreneurs, as we all know, are homeless, right? We're meeting in Starbucks, we're meeting in Panera Bread, we're meeting in the Hilton lobby. And we were like, we need a home so we can work out of, build relationships and rapport similar to the deck in Dublin, right? So now you have a place. But we wanted to do it in what we consider an innovation desert. So right in King Lincoln, Bronzeville is where you don't find a lot of establishments or facilities like that, especially that are affordable. So that's what we've actually done with Venture Suite. So please check us out at venturesuite.co. If you want to come and work out of the spaces, membership based, or if you want to rent it, we would appreciate the support. And last but not least is Color Coded Labs. So the CEO is Doug McCullough, same thing, co-founded by Doug, myself, Brandon, and Bruce. And this is a workforce as well as Mark Kwame, by the way, got to drop that nugget in there. So those are co-founders. And what it is, it basically is an HBCU style boot camp for coding, right? So think about full stack development, JavaScript. Think about the demand right now for tech positions and roles, right? Especially those that have the software development piece. Think about the disproportionate numbers when it comes to diversity. And what we're doing is filling that gap from all aspects. So we're helping people to increase their salaries by a minimum of $20,000 within their first year, right? And obviously we know that grows more and more each year, but that's what we're trying to do is change one household at a time economically. So we don't just put a Band-Aid on this situation, but long-term increasing the potential to generate wealth. Then helping the company. So we hear about Intel and all these other startups in Columbus that are growing fast that need talent. Well, guess what? We're creating that pipeline to help those companies at the same time. So when you think about everything that's happening with the market, this is a win-win-win situation. So we're really excited about what we're doing with Color Coded Labs. You can check that out at colorcodedlabs.com. And if you have any candidates, send them our way. So that's the serial entrepreneurship piece. So, and I know there's going to be some great questions that come after what I just shared.
Yeah.
Back to you,
well,
Mike.
Yeah, thanks. I want to kind of jump into this serial entrepreneur thing because, obviously you've been doing this for a while. So it's not like, it's just, hey, I'm going to start my business and then here's 4 or 5 other ones. But, when we talk to a lot of folks, people want to start a business, they start the business, they're operating the business. And there's a balance between getting distracted and going off and, chasing some other idea, or somebody says, hey, you ought to do this. And then all of a sudden they're going somewhere. And, being focused, moving it forward. But then there's the serial entrepreneur piece. So, what do you say to people? We've got folks on here and it's probably all the way from, want to start to been started and things of that nature. How do you balance that? I don't want to get distracted and go off, mission here, but I see opportunities like you guys have done.
Yeah, so I think in my situation is a little unique, and part of that is because there's a lot of synergy amongst everything that I'm doing, right? So what I find is sometimes is that you can get distracted when it's like, hey, I'm going to try something totally different than what I'm doing. Now you're talking about a totally different lane. A lot of what I do, starting, if you think about Columbus Black, is tied to community outreach and engaging the community, right? And it's obviously primarily focused on the Black community. Well, if you think about what we did with Venture Suite and what we've done with Color Coded Labs, it's tied to that same community. And my role as a co-founder is, even though I'm a part of that co-founding team, we leverage our marketing capabilities, advertising, our outreach capabilities to add value, right? So it's almost like when you look at an investor, right? Investors like to invest in companies that they feel like they can really help. Well, I'm a co-founder in businesses that I feel like I can actually add value to without necessarily being a strain for me to do those things. So that's the important part that I would say, is that if it's synergistic, it makes a lot more sense. And then the other part is not doing it by yourself, right? That's the the thing. If you're a solopreneur and you're doing 3 or 4 different things, that's going to be, I don't know how you can do that. You have to have a team. And that's one of the things that I've been able to do, is create and establish teams with each one of the businesses. So it's not so reliant on just me versus the leadership piece. And then the balance, as you mentioned, one of the things that we've learned is that there's not really balance, right? Like you can't say, hey, I'm a balance all of these things. You end up putting more time towards certain things at certain stages and phases. And you almost have to know when to adjust and when to lean on different individuals on your team to actually help get things done that need to be done. So that's where, that's how I've been able to do it. But then the reality is, we all, in all of the businesses, understand that at some point, because everything is pretty much taken off around the same time and things are in different phases, that at some point I will have to pull away how much time I am able to allocate or dedicate to certain businesses. But the goal is that by the time I have to do that, we have the infrastructure needed to make for them to run successfully.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to take a step back, kind of. I mean, you've done a lot in building brands, building community and things of that nature, but I guess I didn't even realize until I really looked at your bio, your whole background in the retail space, where you were creating brands and things of that nature. So, talk a little bit about, because I think if people get confused about, you say you got to create a brand, So I think people don't understand what that means sometimes, or they don't, I don't say do it properly, but they just get confused and they don't understand how to do this, and then they end up creating something that doesn't resonate or something like that. So talk a little bit about your concept, your philosophy about building brands for small businesses.
Yeah, so building a brand is a difficult piece. So let me jump back for a second, because you mentioned it. I don't want to skip over it. I actually do this when I interview people, right? Is hold on, slow down. Let's go back. How did you get to this point? So with me, so that everybody understands, I spent 25 years as a retail executive. And in a number of those roles that I was in, it was a lot of autonomy, and I pretty much ran my own business, but for a corporation. So whether it was when I was with Sears, when I was with Old Navy, when I was with Best Buy and then Musicland Group, there was a lot of initiatives where we rolled out. It was like having startups in these companies. I was selected in multiple scenarios to be like the first person to get something off the ground with each of those companies, including Target and Dick's Sporting Goods, which is where I wrapped up my career. So the foundation around this whole entrepreneurial drive was already there for 25 years, right? And it was an overlap with Columbus Black, because that started 17 years ago. But that was the foundation that helped me understand, 1, business, 2, teams, driving results, all of those things, right? The metrics, profitability. So that's where that came from. Now, in this case, around building a brand, it's who do you stand for? What do you stand for? How do people see you? And as a small business, it's really difficult at first to try to figure that out, right? And it's a thing of sitting back and saying, what do I want to be known for? And it starts with everything from the name of your company. Does it make sense, right? Is it going to resonate with people? Then you look at all of the assets that you need to go around that, right? Think about your logo. Think about your business cards. You think about marketing collateral that aligns with your brand. You think about messaging that aligns with your brand. So one of the things that, a lot of people struggle with when you're first getting started is, if somebody says, go through your elevator pitch, sell it to me in 60 seconds, right? Sell it to me in 30 seconds. Sell it to me in 15 seconds. Can you get that across that fast? If you had the opportunity to share with somebody on an elevator and they were getting off at the next floor. So if you write down your thoughts and you bake everything out, and then you go back through and you give it all the extra content, right? That you don't need to say, and you can narrow down to the most important components of it. That's how you can then focus on, how do I build my brand, my look, my feel, the colors, the name, everything around it. And then once you feel like you have that, it's about promoting it, getting it out there on a regular, consistent basis. That's the thing about marketing. as well, Mike, is a lot of people want to market, or they don't actually, most companies don't even have a budget for marketing, number one.
Right.
Two is if they do, they may not do the right type of marketing. And right now with digital marketing, a lot of people are throwing dollars at the wall, but not understanding, like, you should be, for instance, running Google ads because of the services you provide versus Facebook ads or Instagram ads. So really understanding all of that is critically important in regards to building your brand.
So when you're thinking about your brand, and I want to say I like the elevator pitch concept because a lot of times when we used to do sessions live, I let people kind of introduce themselves, and I'd have to be very specific that I wanted an elevator pitch. I wanted the 30-second elevator pitch. I didn't want the 15-minute elevator pitch. So you had to be pretty specific. But I really like what you're saying is that you've got to be able to succinctly articulate what it is you're wanting to do. And if you're able to create that, then that really permeates and drives what you're trying to do, as opposed to something that's kind of rambling and different things like that. So I thought that was important. But as you're thinking about your brand, how do you think about the market research and getting out there and kind of testing it and things of that nature?
Yeah, I think market research, focus groups are critically important, right? So the first thing is that there's a lot of data that's available right now. Like, you can go on Google and you can do all kind of searches for what's out there in regards to your business or your potential client or your, what I would say, target audience, right? So identifying who your target audience is so important. That keeps you from spending or wasting a lot of time, on or spending money or energy on an audience that's not relevant to your brand or your business, right? That's the first thing. Second thing, a lot of information is available online, so you can do some research. In some cases, the deeper you want to go, obviously there's some, pay for type situations where you have to pay to get that data. And then the other piece for me that's really important is the focus group. I mentioned it, but that's an easy way to get feedback, is between focus groups and surveys. The good part about focus groups is, you get people that literally are willing to help, assist, to give you feedback, especially if you can identify, once again, who that target audience is. So I'll give you an idea. So for MYLE, to make it relevant, with MYLE, our target audience has adjusted. It was 24 to 45-year-old females, right? Is our initial target. We've adjusted that to 18 to 34-year-old females. But what we did initially is we had two different focus groups, same age range, brought in about 15 different, women in that group, and let them share their perspectives slide by slide in regards to the app, their personal experiences. And that allowed us to take away so much content and really help us define how we wanted to move forward. So when you think about market research, that information is so valuable, especially when it's unbiased. When we talk to family members, we talk to friends, you're not going to get what you really need from them. You need to look at unbiased opinions and make sure the questions that you're even asking don't direct them down a path, right? You want to keep it open so you can really get great feedback that can help you take the right steps that you need, Mike.
Yeah. So on, one of the folks that's watching is Tanya Wilson from our SBDC team, and she does our center marketing. She worked closely with you on the programs that we did with you. And she also does our marketing classes, our social media classes, and does a lot of advising around that, and that's one of the things is really trying to target and get an understanding of who your audience is and who your marketing is. And I get concerned a lot of times that a lot of small business owners want to skip these kind of steps. They want to go from, hey, I got this great idea. And to your point, my family thinks it's great, and things of that nature, but that's not, the best thing. So they skip over the research piece, and sometimes they kind of skip over the planning piece, to get right to where, hey, let me start signing leases and trying to do this and trying to do that. And it's really critical that they're able to identify that target audience. And your point about, you've got to find your audience, that, you don't want to find somebody you want to find the one that's relevant to you. Stay away
Yeah.
from the ones that aren't relevant to you. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs get into this. Everybody's relevant to me. Everybody can buy my product. So, kind of drill down a little bit on, on this concept of identifying your market, because again, you were able to shift, your audience.
Yeah. So one thing that I want to add to that as well, Mikey, is the business plan or executive summary, right?
Right.
It's very difficult. Yes, it takes time, but it requires you to do the diligence that's needed. Like if you literally follow the format, right, to do a business plan, as you know well, it's going to make you answer the questions to set you up for success. So in a lot of cases, you may not realize who your competitors are, right? Until you start to do some of that market research and you go in and you search, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's 6 businesses, and by the way, one of them has the same name that I want to use. Right?
Right.
Like, oh wow. So digging in, doing that business plan, or minimally an executive summary, so you can document your thoughts, you can document your plan, or should I say your strategy, and then your tactical plan to actually execute. One of the big things that comes up, and here's what's been good for me. I've done these different businesses, and they are ran differently in regards to the focus or growth capabilities, right? So 2 of the companies are basically venture type companies, right? Like they can take on investment. These are hyper growth businesses. The other 2 are more like private type of companies, and they require a different thought process in regards to how you would communicate your needs or how you go about running a business. And that's been insightful for me. But what I even recognize is that by doing a pitch deck for one business versus not doing a pitch deck for another business, but just having a business plan, makes you think differently about how you go about it. So even like a go-to-market strategy. So with Columbus Black, I didn't necessarily think about it as a go-to-market strategy as I did with MYLE. It's really clearly defined with MYLE, like how are we going to get the word out, how are we going to grow the business to actually get these numbers. Where with Columbus Black, it was, we knew the community, we knew how we wanted to go about it, but it wasn't defined that way. Going through the process of, doing your business plan will definitely help you to get there. So I recommend it for everybody.
Great. Absolutely. When I talk about business plans too, is that one, I don't like to use the term business plan because I think it scares people, but I think it's important to use the term, planning, and maybe planning for business, kind of flipping it around a little bit. But, when I think about it, I think I tell people, just bullet point out, whatever you're comfortable with. You don't have to go download Business Plan Pro to get started on this thing. And, sometimes it's bad to start with that because you just think you're going to answer the questions without actually knowing the answers, right? So I just tell people, let's start out, create something for yourself, start out at that kind of mission level and start to drive down to a tactical level about what it is that you want to do. And then understanding that market and understanding your audience is super crucial to that. So when we talk about understanding your audience, so let's take it a little bit farther out now. So let's talk about, building community, because you've done a phenomenal job with Columbus Black, building community, and with your other properties and things of that nature. So when we talk about building community for your business or building, this outreach, talk a little bit about that and share some of your insights.
Yeah. So, the nature of Columbus Black required us to actually be engaged and be involved in community events, right? Because we mentioned the commerce side of it, but then also the cultural side. And as what I consider an ambassador of Columbus, it's important to be in the market, to engage the different organizations, the nonprofits that are there, knowing what's going on in different locations, right? So we can actually kind of be the buzz of the city to a degree, but really have what I want to say relationships, right? So when you think outreach, it's about relationships. It's people knowing who you are, you knowing who they are, being able to pick up the phone and make a call and help people and connect with folks. So for us, when we think about community, and that's also, even though, I mentioned we're focused on Columbus Black, but if you look at our relationships, it crosses the horizon, right? So with all the different ethnic groups, gender groups, you name it, we have those relationships because that's the part that's really important. So for us, it's really about building all community around Central Ohio to be a resource for anybody at any point in time that we can help. And that's one of the things that I do, even when I'm on coastal, where, you know, obviously I'm a member of, or one of the leaders with Can't Stop Columbus. And the same thing, we're members with the Chamber of Commerce. And it allows us to really be a resource anytime somebody is looking to engage with our community or beyond. I think that's a really important part. So, you know, I know a lot of people struggle with, you know, networking and building those relationships, but it's ultra critical for your success. And I'm not saying inundate yourself and spend a lot of time over networking. You don't want to do that. That'll put you on the wheel. That won't stop. But you definitely need to go to, you know, specific events that'll give you the exposure with the people that you need and be able to build those relationships. And I think the biggest part of that, Mike, is when you're thinking about what can I do to help you, that's when people really want to help you. So when you have that mindset to help others, it definitely comes back tenfold.
Yeah, and you know, you answered my next question, really. I mean, my thing was going to be, you know, okay, if I got a small business and, you know, maybe I'm 6 months, 8 months into this thing, brick and mortar, you know, sitting on the corner, how does community apply to me? I think you kind of hit on that, and I don't know if you want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into, because like you said, with Columbus Black, it was a natural outgrowth. But for somebody who's got a brick and mortar sitting on the corner, you have any further thoughts on that?
Yeah, so a couple of things there, right? And the reality is it depends, going back to the size of your business, right? If it's just you, and let's just say you're running your business 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, right? It's a brick and mortar, it's going to be very difficult. So I think the goal is trying to get to that point where you have a resource, whether it's a volunteer, whether it's an actual part-time employee, whether it's a family member that you can trust, that allows you to even, you know, especially just getting started, to say, hey, once a week or twice a month, every other week, I'm going to go to a networking event. I'm gonna find, you know, a meetup. I'm gonna go to MYLE, right, and go to networking and meetups. Go to that category and see what's going on, and then go attend one of those events, right, and begin to build that awareness of who you are, and invite people to come into your business. And then if you are a small business, go with some cards and go with a discount. You know, if they come in within a certain time frame, they'll get 10 or 20 or 30% off, depending on your margins, right? So do something to get them into the business. And what I tell people is, if you do a great job, they will become advocates for you, right? So think about if you only met 5 people that really were excited about what it is that you do, and they came to your store, your brick and mortar, and then they became advocates for you. You now have almost like having 5 part-time employees that are willing to brag on your business. That changes the whole landscape, because we know the power of word of mouth. So that would be the recommendation on outreach is, you know, plant those seeds, and then they'll begin to nurture and grow because people know about you. But then the other part is the marketing. That's where you have to be able to say, hey, how do I get some marketing out there? Even if it's a really small budget, $25 or $50, and you do, digital ads, and you boost those to get awareness around your brand, that can help you to drive traffic and begin to build that business. And we all know, like, the data shows that when you have a solopreneur versus a business that has 3 employees, the take home is like 5 times higher, right? So if you really want to take your business to the next level, you have to earn enough to be able to bring somebody else in, at least enough for you to have a little bit more freedom and flexibility to take the business to that next level, that next phase, and then continue to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point about, growth. You don't have to be, 100 employees, but if you can get to 3 to 5 employees, that does give you a whole different flexibility. It's a different perspective on how you're driving your business forward. So that's a super point. So we're going to keep moving. So if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat. I'm keeping an eye on that. We'll throw them out. But what I want to do is I want to pivot a little bit, and I want to have a little bit of conversation. So you mentioned, the work that you're doing in this innovation desert. I love that term. So, talk a little bit about that. So you do a lot of work. Obviously, you're an advocate for small business. You're an advocate for minority and Black owned businesses and things of that nature. So talk about, your experience in that space and what some of the potential issues that you see individuals dealing with and how to address those.
Yeah, so I'll break it down to we've been blessed to even still be here, right? It's hard, right? Like to run a business is really difficult. To keep running a business is even more difficult. And I think as a minority, of a Black-owned business, there's unique challenges that you deal with on top of all of that, right? But there are three things that I always talk about, Mike, that are very important to help minority-owned businesses. One of those is obviously what everybody talks about all the time, and that's capital, right? So when you look at the institutional infrastructure that's been established, whether you look at the wealth gap due to the lack of home ownership, the lack of promotions within jobs and high-level executives, right? When you look at all of the numbers that align with it, it's almost like there's a lack of resources in regards to capital. So it's almost like you're starting with less than you normally would have in most cases, not in all cases, but in most cases, right? When you look at the math, there are some barriers that are in place. So you find a lot of founders or a lot of small businesses like myself that you don't necessarily have the resources financially to really grow the business the way you want to. So sometimes it takes longer to get to that point. It takes a lot more resiliency. It takes being aggressive and going after it. It takes leveraging Ohio SBDC and free services like that, right? So but then that leads to the second point, right? It's not always capital, but a lot of cases it's access to the resources, right? And what I mean by that is in Ohio SBDC, if you don't know about that, you don't know about it. If you don't know about the deck in Dublin, you're unaware of it, right? So it's like you have to be able to get out and get into certain lanes. And unfortunately, when you look at it, when you think about, second generation, third generation, fourth generation businesses, you don't find a lot of Black-owned or minority-owned businesses that are generational because of the fact that there's a lot of first-timers jumping into it. So what you miss there is a lot of the information, a lot of the knowledge that's normally passed down through mentorship, through guidance, through family members to help you even understand how to run your business. So you have a lot of people who get started, like you said, with an idea, no plan, don't know how to run it, don't know when to use other resources, try to do it themselves, just don't really have a good grasp, and then they fail, right? So that's a big thing that we see as well. And then the third thing that I see is the access to, and I think the first and the second point are tied to this one, and it goes back to relationships, access to relationships. So once again, if you don't have access to the people who really have the knowledge, the information, the guidance that can tell you, hey, this is, based off of what you're trying to do, this is where you can get funding, okay? And this is the type of funding you should be going after. So for instance, right now, everybody has a high buzz around startup, right? I want to be a startup founder. Well, some people hear about VCs and they're like, oh, I want to get VC money, right? And they don't understand that certain types of companies qualify for VC type funds. And then other people don't understand that you're going to be giving up equity in your business in order to get that capital. So it's really that knowledge base. And then if you think about the bank side of things, it's okay, traditionally, you have to have a certain credit score in order to get that. Well, if you struggle due to some of the other infrastructure issues, then you may not qualify, which means you're not going to get that funding. Plus, a lot of that funding comes based off of your historical revenue, right? So it's a struggle there. And now you have crowdfunding, and there's a lot of confusion around crowdfunding versus equity crowdfunding, so on and so forth. So in essence, I say all of that to say, when I look at our community, when I look at, just founders themselves and startups, it's so much that we don't know, right? You just don't know what you don't know. So we spend a lot of time spinning in circles. And if you talk to most entrepreneurs, you'll know that we all finish each other's conversations, right? We're going through the same things. It's not like you're the only one going through it, but until you're in a group or you have a supporting cast around you, or you talk to some founders that have been there and been through that, you don't realize how much you're actually going through. So those are a few of the key things that I've personally dealt with and experienced, and that I'm also seeing from others as well, as we're trying to get these businesses off the ground to be successful.
Absolutely. And I love those 3 points because, those are super critical. And, I've mentioned this in previous episodes when we talk about capital. I get
Mm-hmm.
individuals that come in, hey, I want to start a business and I need X amount of dollars or whatever. And I went to the bank and, well, they don't seem to be too interested in a startup. They don't seem to be too interested in my business or whatever. And then I continue to have a conversation with them, and it's around, well, they didn't have a plan,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going in with their big idea and that they vetted with their parents to go in here, and they can't articulate really what they're looking for to the
Mm-hmm.
financial institution. So, I mean, naturally, they're not going to really be that interested. But
Yeah.
if you take, kind of a layered approach here and think about, okay, this is what I need to start the business. This is what I need to grow the business. But then you take this next step of this access to resources. There's a, tremendous amount of support in Columbus, from all the way from small neighborhood organizations that can, have some
Mm-hmm.
people there that have started business and want to support, to more structured organizations like us at the SBDC, to the deck, to the things that you guys are doing down by the Urban League. There's a lot of resources, but like you said, you don't know what you don't know. But
Mm-hmm.
if you've spent a little bit of time going in and doing some research, you'll find, Columbus Black, and on that board, you're going to find a lot of the pieces and parts. So you'll be able to do that. And then this access to relationships is critical. So can you talk a little bit about, mentors and mentorship, and maybe if you've had some experiences with mentors that have supported you along the way?
Yeah, so that's a big part, right? Is mentors and advisors
Yeah.
is so important to your success. And for me, I've been lucky and fortunate and blessed enough to have some great ones around me, right? So everything from true startup founders that help to advise to founders that have been at startups or small businesses that have been in a CEO, CFO, or COO role that help to provide me with a lot of guidance. So I have been able to leverage that. That is so important, and that's what I try to do now, is to help others as much as I can, because we have to pay forward, right? Not just give back, but we have to pay forward by sharing the knowledge that we have, which is, by the way, and this is a plug, which is why I appreciate the opportunity to be on with you all today. One of the things that I don't do enough of, because I'm trying to manage these different businesses, is take the time to share more information about my learnings, my experiences, to help others. So when I have these opportunities, it's important for me to do that. But having a mentor is important. I was on a call, just to share this, I was on a call with some other founders. This is with Inc. Magazine. So Inc. Magazine had me on a panel about 5 days ago with some other founders. And we were talking, and one of those founders who's been really successful, she has a company called Pipcorn, right? Not popcorn, but Pipcorn. So
Okay.
feel free to support her business, right? It's more like natural, healthy popcorn, right? But what's interesting is we were talking about mentors, just like you just asked. And because I've naturally been able to establish those relationships, and networking is an easy thing for me, she shared like that has not always been an easy thing for her. And that's difficult for a lot of people. So we have been walked through and talked through, how do you, one, identify a mentor? Two, how do you make them your mentor, right? So you have to take that step of actually asking. And so what I did was, instead of just saying, hey, ask them, if they would be willing to be your mentors, how do you ask that question? So if you identify somebody that you think would be a great mentor, they have the experience, they have the knowledge, you should also expect that they're probably mentoring other people. And if you literally just say, are you taking on any new mentees, right?
Yeah.
That basically tells them, I respect you enough to think that you should be a mentor. Two, I'm trying to find out if you have the bandwidth, capacity, and the time. And if you are, they're gonna give you that response. Actually, I am. Or they're gonna say, you know what, it's really difficult right now. I have so many, but I may have somebody else who I think can help you. So what are you looking for? What do you need? So asking that question the right way can help you get what you need, and then then you own that and you spend that time. But thanks for asking about mentorship. It's critically important.
Absolutely. So let's talk about kind of the resources, but I want to kind of get your thoughts on in Central Ohio, in Columbus. I mean, how do you view the small business ecosystem in terms of supporting Black-owned businesses?
So I would say that and actually the data says it, right? It's been lacking. I feel like there's some energy around it now, and unfortunately, COVID didn't help, right?
No,
And you know this personally, right? Before COVID, there was an amazing effort that Henry Galat had started with the city of Columbus. We were working on a small business focus, and a lot of that came from the studies that were done, right? Which basically said, hey, if you look at Columbus 2020, as a city, we did a great job over that 20-year period. But then when we look at the economic development and growth, there was a community that was left behind, right? And it was that minority community, especially Black-owned businesses. So then Forward Cities did a study, and they identified some of the key things that were hindering these businesses from being successful as well, and included some of those things I mentioned, right? Obviously, capital, resources, mentorship, what we're talking about. So then this small business focus group, like of amazing leaders from around Columbus, right, came together, all the ESOs, and we were all working to literally change that, had a great plan to execute it, and then COVID hit, and it really disrupted that flow and that energy. And I'd say that that's needed again to really kind of restart that or reboot that, right? Because it's really important. Because what we're going to see is over the next 15 to 20 years, as we all know, Columbus is going to continue to grow significantly. And we all understand the importance of diversity and diverse businesses, right? The impact to our economy. So it's really important that this ecosystem has the support that's needed. I will say that it's on the radar. I will say part of what we're doing with my other co-founders, Brandon, Bruce, Doug, especially, is working with other organizations to help really bolster this ecosystem and make it what it really can be from an economic development standpoint. We have some brilliant people, some brilliant businesses, but the support in regards to capital and resources and relationships are needed in order to really make this happen.
Right. Are you still on Columbus Black? I know we sponsored supporting Black-owned businesses. Are you still running that program?
Yeah. We are. So we were doing that weekly, right? COVID kind of kicked us into that weekly gear. We're not doing it weekly, but we are still doing it. So it really depends on the schedule. So probably twice, maybe even 3 times a month, we're doing that. So that's on Thursdays, normally at 6:30 p.m., where it's the Support Black Business series, where we highlight different Black-owned businesses in the city. And for anybody who's interested in supporting or learning more about those, you can actually go to our website, or you can go to our Facebook or YouTube pages, and you literally can see interview after interview after interview. And you might even see some Ohio SPDC logos on there as well.
And the thing I really liked about that was that you brought Black-owned business owners on to the session. So it was almost like, a little bit of networking, a little bit of mentoring there, where you get to hear, you're just watching, you get to hear, this is what they dealt with. This is where they want. And I'm apologize, I'm blanking on the name, but remember one of the sessions I was on, we had a young lady on that she had a whole plan to do some co-working spaces and things of that nature. COVID hit, crashed all that. She pivoted and, went virtual on a lot of stuff, and, was making, a lot of progress just because, again, commitment and, stick to itiveness and, working hard, and that's the kind of thing that I really liked about the session, is that you got to hear those kind of stories.
Yeah, that resiliency is really important. And we learned a lot. I think you probably saw that, for me as the host, what I loved about and what I love about doing this is everybody's story is different and everybody's experience is different. And I'm always amazed when I hear what people are doing or how they're getting there or what they went through to get there. I mean, I'm always inspired and motivated. And it's interesting because while I'm providing the platform and it's a free opportunity for them, they're pouring into me as much as I'm pouring into them. And that's what makes it so amazing and exciting at the same time.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'd highly encourage everybody to go check that out. We do have a question from Marilyn. I'll take a little bit of step back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of the importance of market research. So she says, you talked about the importance of market research, focus groups, surveys. How do you get started with these as a small business owner?
Yeah, so a couple of things, and I'm trying to remember the name. There is if you go online and you do a search for surveys, right? So if you say like market research surveys, you'll see a plethora of them come up. I would say analyze a few of those. Some of them are really, really good. They already have people who are tied to their survey platform to answer your questions, right? By different target audiences. So like if your business was related to doctors, the survey could go to doctors to validate which you think may be a great business or service for them. And the same thing for other groups. So, really do some research there online and then pick, one of the platforms that can really help you get to your audience the fastest. Anytime you can get over 200 or 250 surveys, it's going to pretty much validate things for you and help point you in the right direction. So look at that as a threshold to try to get data. And then on the focus groups, it's literally, you can put something out there saying that you're looking for people to participate in a focus group. You can put that on social media. You can send it to friends and family and say, looking for an unbiased opinion. If you know somebody who will be really honest and not biased, that'll give us feedback. Let me know. I want to do this on this date at this time. And if you could work to get, anywhere from, I would say 6 to 10 people in the room, then you may want to do a few different ones. But if you can take those steps, you'll get some great feedback and input that'll really help you tremendously.
Absolutely. And, I mentioned Tanya Wilson, who's on our team. She does training programs around marketing, around this concept of market research. She provides advising to people that are interested in doing that. There's Tanya there. And she's, a great resource, and is, one of our team with the SBDC. And our services are provided at no out of pocket for the individual. So I don't like to say free. I want to create the value, right? But she has a lot of background, a lot of things that she can bring to it. So if you have questions on that, I encourage you to reach out to the SBDC and reach out to Tanya and set up time. Maybe you can sit down and talk to her or participate in one of the classes. So with that, we're getting ready to kind of wrap up. This has been great. Probably have to have Kevin on again, multiple times and kind of go from there. But I do want to, before we kind of hit the last question, I want to thank Chas Frutel and the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center for their support of the Small Business Breakthroughs program. It is, great partnership that we've had with these folks, and we are excited to look to the future because, like Kevin said, COVID kind of changed a lot of stuff, and I think we're, hopefully kind of getting back to a normal, to where it's not going back to 2019. It's 2022, so we're able to take the lessons we learned for the last 2 years with COVID and apply some of those things. So we talk about focus groups, in 2019, let's get everybody in a room. 2022, maybe you do it over Zoom. And, maybe you can do some things like that. So a lot of different opportunities for folks, and, we're looking for that. Also, Kevin mentioned the small business agenda that the City of Columbus put together, a study that they did. One of our former team members, Ariana Ola, is with the City of Columbus now. She is in the position, has taken the position that Henry Galat had, and Henry did a phenomenal job in getting everything launched. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Ariana comes up with going forward, because again, I think that you're right. We got to get back at it, and do what we need to do to continue to build this ecosystem for Columbus. And I want to mention, if you are interested, on May 4th, we will have the next Small Business Breakthroughs. That is actually during SBA's Small Business Week. We will be having some individuals from 10,000 Small Business program. That is a training program by Goldman Sachs, and it's administered through the Columbus State Community College. We'll be having some of the folks from there, as well as some participants. So I'm looking forward to having some entrepreneurs on here with that. So with that, I want to go to the final question for Kevin. I actually did prep him. Sometimes I forget to tell everybody what the final question is. But the final question is really, Kevin, what is, for the people that are on here, the people that are watching this, or the people that watch the recording, what is one thing that you would recommend that they do between now and midnight tonight that would help their business? You're on mute now, so.
That's the most common phrase used since 2019 in the world.
Yeah.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Right?
That's right.
So, yeah. So here's what I'm saying, and thank you. I did have a chance to kind of think through this, right? And I'm probably going to take a direction that may be a little bit different than most people here. What I would recommend is that you take a look, as an entrepreneur, take a look at the last 6 months, right? And identify your top 3 to 5 accomplishments that you've made. What did you do, right, that you're excited about or that you feel good about in the last 6 months? And then write down, what steps did I take to achieve that accomplishment, right? And then look at the next year and figure out how you're going to apply those same steps toward the next year to continue to achieve more and more accomplishments, right? You may do it a little bit of a different way, but what I see is, in this entrepreneurial journey, we keep going. We very rarely stop, say, wow, that was amazing. What did I do to make that happen? And how do I do that again? We tend to just keep on going, right? We don't celebrate the successes enough. We move on to the next milestone. And it's like one day after another, 1 year after another, one accomplishment after another, but just literally taking the time to absorb, because there's something about what we're doing well, right? Disregard all the other stuff. We know that we're going to screw up a bunch of stuff. That's a part of it. But look at the things you did really well and continue to focus on that, right? Because it's leveraging your strengths versus focusing on your weaknesses. And we know that, as an entrepreneur, every hour it ebbs and it flows. That roller coaster is for real. So want to make sure that we're thinking about the things that went well, continue to focus on those, build out a strategy over the next year on how you're going to do more of those things, how you're going to exhibit more of those behaviors, build more of those relationships, close more of those deals, and continue to be successful. So that's what I got for you, Mike. That's great.
That is great. So I appreciate, Kevin, you being here. Great insights. Am I supposed to go like this? Is that what I do?
Gem drops. Yeah, do the gem drops.
Right. That's right. So anyway, Kevin, thanks a lot for being here. This was great. And I certainly appreciate your partnership, appreciate your friendship, and looking forward to continue to be able to work with you. Everybody who is participating and attending, again, thank you for jumping on here, and we look forward to being able to support you in your entrepreneurial journey going forward. And until next time, have a great day. Thanks.
And Mike, real quick, I wanted to say thank you to you, Chaz, and Tanya as well for all of your support. Y'all have a great one, all right?
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. All right.